icons, afternoon. It's afternoon here. Whenever you're watching this, good day. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm Super Joe Pardo, and today is it's a little bit different. Usually this would be Free Ride Friday. Today, our guest today would be on Wednesday, which is Wisdom Wednesday, for a free one-on-one coaching session with me. But we're doing it on Friday, so it's a Wisdom Wednesday on a Friday. Let's see what we got going on here today. Oh man, tomorrow. I don't know how I was gonna forget. Tomorrow is our free live virtual conference. It's home recording for your podcast setup. So, learning how to take your podcast setup to the next level. We have 6 great speakers coming in to speak. It'll be in the IndiePod community. So if you go to indiepodcasters.com/group, you can join us in the Facebook community if you're not already watching this live video there, where we're live streaming right now. But because we live stream to 3 different places, plus this goes to YouTube and the podcast as well. So today's guest, we're going to be talking about getting her analytics and platform straightened out and getting all that on the up and up, because there's a lot of information to digest. And I'm hoping that if nothing else, by the end of this, I can at least help our guest kind of, streamline some of the things and understand where she needs to be heading in the direction of. And before I get there and bring her on, this episode is brought to you by the IndiePod University. It's where you can learn to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast with me and the rest of our Icon University community. It's a free Facebook, It's a Facebook community. It's tons of resource videos. So it's an archive is the word I was looking for. An archive of resource videos, all revolving around podcasting. There's classes, there's workshops that are pre-recorded. We add workshops, and we do group coaching calls in there. So if you head over to indiepodu.com, go check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we will get those questions answered. All right, so let me bring in our guest today. So I need some super claps in the chat if you're watching live for Super Susan Proper. What is going on, Susan? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. How are you, Joe?
I'm feeling pretty well. I'm pretty great
Good.
overall. It's just a very busy day. It's been a busy week. I had to solo take care of our kids this week for 2 days, so that's one of the reasons I had to reschedule with you, and while we're doing a Wisdom Wednesday on a Friday. And
so you were Super Joe dad.
Yes, it was fun. It was good. It was a great time. We went and got ice cream at one point, so nothing bad there happened. Nobody got hurt.
I think I saw you at one point. I saw you at one point playing a video game, I think.
Yes, with Ava. So my son, who's 2, he still takes naps, even though he's definitely getting to the end of that phase, or at least he thinks he is. So I brought my daughter. She was begging to play some Minecraft, so I was like, all right, well, it's been a while since we booted up Minecraft. Let's go do it.
Okay.
And so I was like, and to me, it's a great, I live streamed it. It's fun to live stream it, but to me, it's really about the recording for the years to come, right? To be able to look back on it and be like, oh, look at when we were playing these games and you were 4 and we had this great time, and look at the house that we had and all that. So that to me is the awesomeness of it. Just being able to share it with other people is just a cherry on top.
Sure.
So I I'm glad you got to see it.
I did.
It's definitely fun to play with her. But today we're here to talk about your podcast, and so how long have you been podcasting for, Susan?
I've been podcasting since early September. Not long.
Okay, great. Well, it's late October, so you are moving right along. and doing the things to make it happen. How have you enjoyed the experience so far?
I actually love the experience. I love talking to people, meeting new people, and learning. I'm learning so much. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy the most. And then, of course, sharing all that information with viewers, with my audience or listeners.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's understandable. I mean, it is, getting to have those great conversations really is to me like the number one thing. When people ask me like, "What do you love about podcasting?" Like, it's easy. The
Yeah.
people. It's not
Yeah.
about the money. It's not about that'll come. It comes with getting to know more people, growing a network, getting deep into a niche, and having people respect you for said niche. Like all that stuff comes, but it all starts with the people, right? And the
Hmm.
conversations that you get to have, the friendships that you get to build around.
I agree.
That's yeah. It's the best part
I think so.
to me. So. Okay, so what's the name of your podcast?
Women inspired to wellness.
Women inspire. I'm writing this down so I don't forget.
Sure.
To wellness, and then let's see. So do you have a website yet?
Well, I have my own website, which is Susan Proper Yoga, and the website is hosted on that. The podcast, excuse me, is hosted on that website.
Oh, I said your name wrong. I'm sorry. I bet you everybody does though.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
Yeah.
I love
I
you
I
anyway.
apologize. Oh, thank you. I appreciate. I appreciate it. It's coming right back to you. I just I would have never thought to
Yeah,
pronounce.
it's a
I feel
Dutch
like if I had
name.
said that,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
have
yeah.
said it
It's
wrong.
okay.
Like, why
It's
are you
okay.
overthinking it, Joe?
It's
Okay,
okay.
proper, right?
Yeah,
Proper. Okay.
proper. Yeah.
Proper. Okay. But it looks like it sounds like it should have a B in there. Like the second P should be a B. So
Oh,
like
I guess I never.
prover, like
Anyway, yeah,
prover.
I don't
No?
know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up and move on. So, what's the website? It's Susan Proper
Yoga.com.
Yoga.com. I knew I missed something at the end of that.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
it's
Awesome.
there. See where it says
You just
podcast? Yeah,
added it.
right
Okay.
there.
Cool. 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 So what are you using to build? You're building it on Squarespace. Okay.
Yeah.
That's respectable. How long have you had your website there with Squarespace?
Oh, couple of years.
Oh, okay. And you've been
Yeah.
happy with it?
So far, yeah. I'm not in love with my design, but I'm not a web guru. I built it myself and with the help of somebody else, and it is what it is.
Doesn't look bad. I mean, the I think the important thing is it doing its job? Is it conveying the message to the people that you want it to convey it to, and are they showing up
Um,
in like
the message is there, showing up sometimes. Yeah.
sometimes? Okay. So, but you have a record of it working at least once, where like somebody found you, went to your website, and like
Oh,
contacted you.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Ding, ding, ding.
yeah.
That's the important part, right? So
Right.
like we can get and I do it myself, right? I get lost in I can make this bigger, better. I can add these colors and like all like parallaxing this and that, and but at the end of the day, like the message is really the important thing, right? Content
Right.
is king,
Yeah,
and
yeah. No, I love my message, and I know it's there.
yeah, yeah. So that's important. That's super important. And
Hmm.
all right. So when you go to add your podcast, you're adding it um as a blog post, right? I assume
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Squarespace. Okay,
Hmm.
which is fine. Now, who are you hosting your podcast with?
Um, well, I have. This is where I'm not quite sure. I have it. Okay,
I know. So
so
so so let me give you some. Let me. Okay. So in the form that Susan filled out,
yes,
she had wrote down like a bunch of different services and was like, I'm using
yeah,
SoundCloud and I'm using I'm gonna pull it up here so I don't misquote it. Let's see. I'm in a bit of overwhelm. Podcast on my website, on SoundCloud via Hindenburg,
yeah.
and the other platform is Anchor. Analytic Nightmare. Cost is a factor though. So Hindenburg, I mean, as far as I know, that is you're using that to edit your podcast.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And how do you feel about editing your podcast with Hindenburg?
It's a learning curve, but I actually find it kind of user friendly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I I personally don't have any experience with it. I pretty much use Audacity. I've used Audacity since like it came out back in like 2000, 2001. And the reason is it's free and it's multi-platform. So when I use a
Oh,
Mac, I can use it. When I
okay.
use a PC, it's fine too.
Okay.
Um, so that's cool that you're using Hindenburg, and then so you're using it to upload because this is does not look like
I
the
believe this is
player
on
for
Apple. I believe this is on Apple because when I first did this, I had to create an Apple podcast account.
right. So they don't host files at Apple.
Okay.
Um, what they do is they use the RSS feed that's
Uh,
provided by the um, one of the hosts that you can pick from. So let me look through this code here. So when tell you what, where do you go to upload your newest episode?
Anchor.
Anchor. Okay, so this is the Anchor player then, which is I thought Anchor had more stuff on its players, but it's kind of nice to see. Okay, so Anchor is your host. Anchor is free,
Yeah.
which is cool. There is a handful of issues with Anchor that come with it. A being free and B being owned by Was it Spotify?
I think it's
Yeah,
Spotify. Yeah.
yeah. I'm just pretty confident it was Spotify. I wanted to say iHeartMedia, but that's because I saw and shout out to Francisco this morning posting about his company. I guess they were being acquired by iHeartMedia, which is really cool. That was Spreaker, which became Voxnest. Like awesome job, man. Hope you got a big payday out of that.
Mhm.
Um,
That'd be
yeah,
nice.
so I'm sorry.
I said that'd be nice.
Yeah, right. I mean, he definitely earned it. Absolutely earned it. So so yeah, so you're uploading the Anchor, which is fine for now, and so Anchor provides its own analytics, I believe.
They do, but they don't for Apple for some reason.
So Apple has its own. So if you have your own login to it's podcastconnect.apple.com. I'm going to pull it up here in a second as soon as I can make sure. Of course, I have to verify because I'm on a Windows PC and not my Mac. There we go. It's supposed to trust. It asks you, do you want to trust this device? And you have to hit it every single time. But so once you get into the podcastconnect.com connect.apple.com, that's where you can see not only the shows that you have, but they have analytics as well that are in beta,
Oh,
right? So that's where you can find out the Apple analytics.
okay.
Now, other analytics, like other hosting companies, have their own way of like looking up everything, right? So like if I were to pull up, like I use Blueberry Stats. So even though I don't specifically host with them, I route everything through them so that I can see where like what platform. So iOS, Macintosh, Windows, Android, um, and then I can see like where in the world the downloads are coming from. You know which cities specifically in these different countries.
Wow. Wow.
The day to
Oh
day.
my God, look at those downloads. Holy
Eh,
crap.
well, I mean, this is the Super Joe Pardo show, which admittedly hasn't had a whole lot of new episodes this year, only a couple, so it hasn't been at top of mind for most of it. But so it's overall, like it's still getting downloads every single day. Some days are a lot higher than others, but
Hmm.
some days it's just like two or one. The important thing is that I've only seen like one day where there wasn't any downloads at all,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is good. Like in the last years, so that's positive, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, don't get lost in the number. The important thing, right, especially right now, isn't so much your stats, right? So you know where you can go and get your iTunes
Okay.
stats
Yes.
from,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You are definitely you know hosting the show with Anchor. Now, where did SoundCloud come into play?
Well, here I am, a novice. I don't know anything about anything really. And, I did my first edit in Hindenburg and it said publish. And I was like, oh, publish. I can publish from here. This is fantastic. But
Yes.
then I realized I could only publish from there in SoundCloud. Um, Under the account that I had, the type of account that I have with Hindenburg. So I was like, well, all right, I'll do it. And so I did it.
So okay, so yes, so I wouldn't worry about SoundCloud. I would not recommend hosting with them. They have had their own sets of problems over the years. At least with Anchor, they have Spotify money, so they probably aren't likely to go anywhere anytime soon. If you plan on keeping your show with Anchor. Now, me personally, I fall into the camp of owning your IP to the fullest that you are possible to, right? So in this case of like having a host that isn't tied to a bunch of like contractual agreements of like they get to like kind of like YouTube, right? If YouTube doesn't like what you say, they pull it off, right? They have that say versus like some other hosts like Libsyn, Blueberry, Podbean. They are in the background, right? They're not really a front facing company to the user base. So the idea there is like it's not as much of a big deal who is hosting what content. It's because you're able to have that level of like freedom of speech and all that stuff. But the important thing is I think out of all this, the most important thing, even though with those other ones, well, specifically with Blueberry, you get to own the RSS feed, so that you can take it with you. But the most important thing is that you're backing up your files, like you're backing up your old MP3 files of your show, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because at some point you might want to move it to another host, or if Anchor, decides like, oh, we don't want this show on Anchor platform anymore, or something to that effect, all of a sudden your episodes can be, will be gone. And if you don't have that backup of those MP3 files, then you
I'm
just
screwed.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lost weeks or months or years worth of content there that you went out of your way to create.
Okay.
So no, that's good to hear. So yeah. So what else are you
Well,
working with?
can I go back to what you're saying then?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, all right, I'm with Anchor, and I know another podcaster that lives in the UK, and she has been on Anchor, and and I'm not trying to bash Anchor here, but she has been she recently within the last excuse me, like, I don't know, maybe 3 months, decided that she wanted to pull away from Anchor. And she implied to me that it was not all that easy to pull out of Anchor. And maybe, and I haven't talked to her in a while, but maybe it was because she didn't have backups of her own file or some of her own files or something like that. That could be. I guess I need to get in touch with her. But would you say then, in your opinion, in the long run, Joe, that I'm better off going with a different platform besides Anchor or other than Anchor?
I would say so.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I just pulled up both Libsyn and Blueberry. They both have article or pages explaining how they go about the migration process, and that Blueberry offers free phone and email assistance in the transition.
Holy crap.
Um,
Okay.
and Libsyn. I don't know if they offer. I'm sure they do because they have a great support team, which we have. Several of our Icon members are that work for Libsyn, as well as we have several Icon members that work for Blueberry, as well as
Hmm.
Podbean. So, like, if I type in Anchor to Podbean, I'm sure they have an article explaining how to move off of Anchor. Look, I mean, I think Anchor has its place as far as like getting getting started and like getting the reps in. Like that's one of the things I'm always big on, right? Is how do you get those reps in and get really good at creating the content that really speaks to the audience in which you're trying to reach. So to me, like that's the most important thing out of the gate. But as time goes on, it's not necessarily the most important thing, right? Owning your website, owning the content on it, owning and also ease of use. So like at some point, and this is separate from the podcast really, but at some point you may want to go with a different platform than Squarespace for your site, and that would, like, to me, WordPress is the way to go because you can own the content. So the great thing about WordPress is, like, I can host WordPress sites with like anybody. I can't take my Squarespace site anywhere, right? Just like same with Wix, right? So Squarespace is great for a number of different things because, like, you got your site up, you got it going, and you can get on with your business, right?
Hmm.
But once you start talking about like the content game, Squarespace Wix not really the best way to go with it. WordPress absolutely is the board. I mean, I think at one point, I don't know if it still is, but it was running 60% of the web is
Wow.
running on WordPress. Yeah. So, and you don't have to go to WordPress.com. I would suggest getting a host, and the less you know, the more likely I would suggest going with like a GoDaddy or with a WP Engine or something like that. WP Engine was the .com, because they have phone support, right? Like you can just call up and be like, "Hey, like this thing ain't working. Like, what am I supposed to do?"
Hmm.
They jump in and do it, right? WP Engine's great because that's all they do is WordPress. GoDaddy's great because they have 24/7 support and they have a huge infrastructure of people that support it and all that. So, and you can host other things there too. But I really feel that you'll see it as you get deeper and deeper into doing this. You're going to want more automation, like more things like plugins to make posting your podcast faster, and that's where, like, Blueberry has PowerPress, which integrates right into WordPress. So it's a plugin that goes right into WordPress, and then you can all of a sudden, like, your RSS feed becomes really easy to update. Like, it's just create a new post and upload the file
Right.
and then pop in the link of where it is. So things like that just make the process a lot easier. So you're still really early on. I wouldn't fret too much just yet. The most important thing here is that you have your MP3 files backed up, and as long as you have access to your podcast connect .apple.com,
Yeah.
like this page here,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
change your podcast feed. So it's not hard to, like, okay, we're gonna get rid of Anchor and we're gonna move to Libsyn, or we're gonna move to Blueberry, we're gonna move to Podbean or one of the other main hosts out there.
Hmm.
Um, though that's that. So to me, like, that's important. That's the most important thing right there, right?
Okay.
That, and you getting your reps in, getting creating as much content as you can, get it really used to talking on the microphone, getting really used to, like, just creating and editing content, and then worry about the rest of the stuff later, right? I mean, right now the most important thing is get good and get used to it.
Right.
Um, so
So I guess I have another question.
yeah.
Um, when do you feel that? How do you know? Okay, blah. Good questions, bad questions. How do you know when you're getting good numbers versus shit numbers? Like, okay, I know a shit number is a, like, nobody listens to it, but I'm new, and like the fact that I have anybody listen to me makes me feel good. But you know I'm new, so I don't know if my numbers are good or my numbers are shit.
Okay, so let's take that and reframe it, right?
Yeah, okay.
Um, are you what's your goal with your podcast?
Well, my goal with my podcast is to reach women, to introduce them to other women who maybe are or have experienced other things that they either are going through or have gone through, so that they can learn new things, maybe experience or consider new ideas, and also introduce them to me. I mean, I'm a life coach and a yoga teacher. I want them to learn about me at the same time.
So is the okay, so is the goal really to get new clients?
Not ultimately. It's
I know, to help women.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it's
I know that.
it's
But like when you're doing it, it's part of a marketing arm for your business, right?
well, it's a tool in my business. Absolutely.
Mhm. So, are you thinking like getting sponsors or something for your show?
Um,
Is that something that you've
I mean,
considered or thought
when they
about?
asked me that in anger, I said no.
Okay. Right. Well, I mean, technically, you are your sponsor. You are the sponsor, right?
Right.
Your company's the sponsor. So that's my point. Is that unless you're looking to get like sponsors for your show, like
Uh,
what difference does it make? You know, if the goal is to help women, introduce women to other women that are going through things, you know, if you have 100 people, 100 downloads per episode, you know, how is that a bad thing? You don't need to take that, bundle that 100 people, and then try to sell that to a sponsor. So, what different? Like, doesn't really make a difference
okay. Oh,
as
yeah.
long as
I guess.
as long as somebody's listening, right? Like that's the
Right.
to
Right.
me, like that's the more important thing. Worry about the getting good at, you know, speaking on the mic, putting great episodes together, great content out, helping people connect and do things centered around the podcast audience. Like maybe it's a virtual meetup, or it's I don't know if you have a Facebook group
I
currently,
do.
but maybe
Yeah.
right. So something to that effect, right? Um, and if it is if it doesn't necessarily align perfectly with that Facebook group, start another, like an offshoot Facebook group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just for those people on the podcast, to connect and learn and all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of things, like, I you know, people will get really hung up on the idea that, like, oh, I you know, how many numbers, how many downloads am I getting? Like, I'll tell you, like, having 10,000 downloads a month doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't matter unless you're trying to bundle those downloads up and say, hey, look, I can sell, like, we can move product for somebody else's business. Does not matter. Like for me, the Super Joe Pardo show doesn't matter because the only sponsor is me. I mean, I've had a couple of sponsors over the years, but for the most part, it's not my goal is to have you know, to run the sponsor wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It's to bring people in. One of the reasons I do the Indie Pod show, right, is to bring people into the Indie Pod University. Not like I've floated the idea of doing sponsors, but I'm just like, then it just becomes it just becomes like more work. Like and depending on how much that dollar value is, it might not be worth what you're doing to get it, right?
Right.
So so does that make sense?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just all in your perspective and how you look at it. You know, I belong to several Facebook podcast groups. You know, women's
Mm-hmm.
groups, women podcasters, your
She
podcast,
podcasts, I hope.
yeah, and
Yeah, that's awesome. They're
Podfest,
great,
and
good friends of ours.
yeah, and a couple others, and they you know, everybody's always talking about, oh, I got 1,000 downloads, and oh, I hit 10,000 downloads. I'm like, holy crap, you know, here I am with my, okay, got to have a different perspective, you know, 40 or 50 or whatever the number may be. And I'm like, oh, what am I, you know, dog food or something, you know? It's just, I guess I just have to have a different different perspective.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to fall into that trap of like looking at
Yeah.
other people and like, oh, why, we're doing similar-ish kind of things. Why are they getting all the attention and I'm not?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
believe me, I've lived it. I've grew
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for since 2014. So it's it's easy to get wrapped up in that. But the fact of the matter is like when you think about a podcast, you really got to be thinking about it in terms of like building an island, right? So if you like look at like YouTube as an island, right, is its own thing. Like they're not still forming the dirt to make the island. They already have high rises, right? They have millions of people living there. So it's like when you add another piece of content to it, it's like, oh, okay, it's just another piece of thing on that island.
Yeah.
When you're starting a podcast, you're like, hey, there's a nice chunk of water here. I think I'm gonna grab some dirt and like start pulling the dirt up out of the water and maybe start building some beaches, and then we'll start talking about some huts, right? So and then maybe we'll attract a couple of people to that, those huts, and then maybe at some point we could start talking about little bungalows, and then eventually maybe if we're lucky we could do like a small motel, because we have so many people coming in, and then a hotel, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can't look at it like oh, I have a podcast. Like, great. Like, a lot of people do, right? I have a YouTube channel. Great. A lot of people do. But YouTube takes care of the distribution of that, right? Versus, like, this is people got to find you in the distribution platforms, whether it's on the iPhone, whether it's on, Apple Podcasts, or wherever they're finding their podcast, right? Their
Right.
podcast platform of choice. So, it just makes it that much harder and that much longer. And Apple doesn't really have any real skin in the game, honestly. They have, like, last I heard, they have like two or three people that work in the podcasting department.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because they're not hosting any files. They're not like they have very little skin in the game on it.
Wow.
So while they're helping in grow this idea of the podcast, it's not like Spotify where they're like, oh, we want people on our platform. They're not like YouTube. It's like we want you people to stay on our platform as long as possible.
Hmm.
So like, hey, like let's do a test and like see if people like this video.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so think about it in terms of like where you're at right now and a year from now, where you would like to be. And like I said, as long as you show that people are downloading the show at all, like 1, 2, 3 downloads, just think about it. It's like as terms of people, right? When you get to 100 people or 100 downloads, like that's 100 people potentially in a room, right? Like
Yeah.
how awesome is that, right?
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
awesome was it? 1,000, 10,000, twenty
Yeah.
thousand downloads.
Okay.
But like I look at my numbers and I look at some of my friends and their shows have millions and multiples of millions of downloads, and
Wow.
it's like, man, like what are they doing? Well, I'll tell you what they're doing. They niche down, right? That's
Oh.
that's the secret. They niche down. Well, my show was called the Dreamers Podcast for the longest time, and now it's the Super Joe Pardo show. It was what started out as an inspirational show for people turned into an entrepreneurial show, but with the wrong mixed messaging going on there, because it wasn't really about dreaming at that point. It was about entrepreneurs and business lessons and all these things. So so I know where I faltered in those, and then still ended up with have 160,000 downloads and grows every single day by sometimes 200. It just depends, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, don't get hung up on what other people are. You are just getting started, and if you
Okay.
let that get in your head,
Okay.
you probably won't make it to episode 12 because you'll just be like, well, no one's listening to it. It's a
Right.
failure.
Right.
And that's just not the case. You're building the
Yeah.
island literally out of the ground
Okay.
from the ground up.
I'll remember that. Okay. I'll remember
Good.
that analogy.
Good.
Now, can I ask you another question though? What
Of course.
what about Amazon podcast?
So you can add your podcast to Amazon Music, which actually I have Amazon Music. I use it personally.
I did add my podcast there, but I'm just trying to get your opinion on it because some people are saying, "Oh no, I went to it and there was something that they didn't like about it," or I can't remember.
I mean, as far as I know, you're just you're not hosting anything with them. You're just adding your your hat to the ring of all these
Yeah.
other podcasts there. So
Yeah.
I mean, are people going to actively use it to play their podcasts? I
Probably
don't
not
know.
likely. Yeah.
Maybe if you're real big into the Amazon Music thing, like I use it. I don't love it. I don't. To me, it's just convenience, and it's
Yeah.
not Spotify. But yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like I wouldn't use it for my podcast. I don't think. I just use the Apple Podcast app.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because the other thing that's annoying is like it's not on my watch. So the Amazon
Uh,
Music doesn't have an Apple Watch app, which
oh.
wouldn't matter for everybody. But I go running with my watch, where it's just me and my watch. So
Oh.
I'd like to be able to listen to music off of Amazon Music. So I've actually considered moving to Spotify because they have an Apple Watch app.
Oh my God. I
Now,
hadn't even thought of that. Wow.
yeah, so it's I mean that to me that's a thing, right? Like I can just go out running, I grab my ear pods, I grab my watch and I go out and I don't need to bring my phone
Yeah.
and have another thing like
Yeah.
flopping
Yeah.
around in my pocket while I'm running. So it's it's helpful it's helpful for podcasting. I don't know that it matters. I don't know that it's going to make
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
huge splash, but it doesn't hurt to be in there. In fact, I got
Right.
to get this show in there still, and I got to get the Super Joe Pardo show as I get I've been inching closer to creating new content for that show and for the
Mm.
YouTube channel for that. But it's just been really slow going, and I have so many projects that are kind of getting all over the place. So I'm getting there for anybody that's looking for an update on that.
Yeah.
But Susan, so yeah, so that's does that answer your question on the
Yes,
Amazon
it did.
Music?
Thank you. Yep.
You're
Yep. Yep.
welcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else?
Well, I mean, I think you pretty much hit on everything that I was kind of confused about. You know, I just, I was just feeling like I was doing too much. Like I had too many, too many things to do just to get a podcast out there. One episode. It seemed like, God, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And this, and then it's there. And I want to just like put the file in one place and push a button and have it be done. Damn it! Why won't it be done that way?
Well, it can. The way I have mine set up, it's that way. This show is set up that way, specifically but I use some software to make that to make the like. So I have it set up so when we go live, it's going to make the jump my to my YouTube channel for IndiePod, right? And then from there, it'll make the jump to the website. And once it's there, I'll add the MP3 file and it'll go into the RSS feed. So I still have to upload the MP3 file, but like boom, 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 it just, all those things happen. Now it doesn't happen overnight. And again, I wouldn't put too much effort into that. To me, do you find yourself editing too much, or where do you find you're
editing
spending
can
your
take a
time?
long time. Yeah, and I don't know if that's just because I'm still in a learning curve with Hindenburg, or maybe yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel editing takes a while. It can take me like 3 hours or more to edit, and I feel like that's a long time.
It is. So I'm looking at the lengths of your episodes, and it looks like they're roughly about an hour. I see that the episode 0 was 18 minutes, and that there was
They average around 35, 45 minutes.
37 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and 56 minutes, and yeah. So what I would say about that is that time that you're spending just on editing alone, to me, is time that you could be using scheduling more interviews or doing yourself to do more recording.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is so there's a trick in editing where when you're recording your podcast, instead of going back and like trying to take out any of the ums or ahs or
Yeah.
all the slight gaps of air, let your show breathe, right? Like what we're doing right here gets 0 editing.
Okay.
It just goes up. What you do is, if there is something that stands out to you that you're like, I want to change, I know I'm going to want to edit this out, or I'm going to want to change this, or the dog starts barking, or
Yeah.
something like that, right? just write down the timestamp of where you're at. Right. So like, okay, 46 minutes in, there was dog barking. So just write down all these timestamps. You'll figure out when you go back and listen
Yeah.
what you want to get rid of. But the trick to it is that you have to edit it backwards because the time collapses on itself as you're
God,
as you're editing.
yes, I know
Right.
exactly what. Oh, Jesus. It
Right.
took me the longest time to figure that out.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna edit backwards, and so you're gonna start at the last thing. You're gonna start at the last timestamp, and then clip that out, and then move to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, till you get to
Yes.
the beginning of the podcast. So now
Yes.
you probably just took your editing time from 2 to 3 hours down to to I have a little helper here.
I saw.
Down to probably 20 minutes,
Okay.
25 minutes. Yeah. So then but like I said, let your podcast breathe. Let your, because here's the thing, Susan. If you really are serious about doing a podcast and you're serious about like, I'm here, I'm going to do this for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Nothing that you're doing today is going to make a difference for 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, other than putting in the reps.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like leaving in that or that or that little bit of breath is not going to make a difference.
Okay.
4 years from now. Right. What's going to make a difference is you marketing your podcast more, taking that 3 hours that you just chopped down into 25 minutes.
Okay.
Taking that 2.5 hours. Hold on a second, Ava. Taking that 2.5 hours, and turning that into more marketing time or another interview, so you get another rep in. Maybe writing longer show notes so that your stuff can be found by more people. Which another reason to go with WordPress is they have, and I don't know if Squarespace does, but SEO, an SEO
They
plugin.
do. They do.
They do have an SEO. Okay.
Yeah.
So like writing longer show notes to get found. Those are the types of things, doing more marketing, doing more exploratory, like meeting people, right?
Yeah.
Going on Facebook, finding that, 4 people to like network with, and who knows what can come out of it. Taking that time, maybe building another, I don't know if you have any digital products, building a digital product, that time is going to be so much better spent. And at some point in the future, maybe have somebody else edit your show. If you still, depending on the type of show, depending how you want your show to look and sound and feel, you might want that. But ultimately, the times, 3 hours spent editing is not going to move the needle for you. It's not going to make your guests share the episode any more than they already are.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is if you record, 60 minutes of an interview and you spend 3 hours to edit it, and then it goes down to like 55 minutes and you shaved off 5 minutes, people are already committed to be there for an hour, right? Like
Right.
they're going to look at the time and say, oh, okay, it's an hour.
Yeah.
You don't want 2 minutes of silence or something. That's where you want to edit, chop that off.
Right.
So it's like, that's the important thing. Getting those reps in, doing the marketing, doing the networking, spend your time doing that. If you spend all your, you spend 2-3 hours editing, and I've done it, I've been there. I wish I could get all that time back in the beginning. In fact, when she was born behind me here, that's when I decided there was no more time for editing. It just is what it is. We're gonna roll with it. We're gonna do it live, as Bill O'Reilly would say. So that's what you got to do. That's the most important thing you could be doing right now.
Those are really great suggestions. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Ross Brand is joining us, and so is Jim Molliard. Looking forward to the conference tomorrow. Yes, we. Let me take a break real quick, Susan.
Sure.
We are going to be having a free live virtual conference right here in the IndiePod community tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm looking forward to that. It's all on home recording for your podcast and how you can get better at home recording. Your home recording setup. I think we have somebody going over podcast editing tools as well.
Oh.
So that's pretty cool as well. So I'm looking forward to that. It starts 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern, all tomorrow, Saturday, October 24th. You can get more information over at indiepodcasters.com/virtual. It'll be our final virtual podcast conference for the year as we head into the holidays. Yes, Ava, what's up?
I'm playing a game, so I think you need to help me.
What game are you playing?
You know, the shooting game that you fight monsters that you jump, but it's not Final Fantasy. It's not Final Fantasy because we beat it.
Okay, I'm not sure what game you're talking about. Was it the one we played the other day?
Yeah.
Gunstar Heroes, I think it is, for Sega.
Yeah. It's Gunstar Heroes, and I don't know how to read.
Oh no, we gotta fix that. Tell you what, I'll come in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I bet Mommy can read it.
I bet you she can. It looks like she's gonna be coming downstairs in a minute. All right, sorry about that, everybody. Sorry about that, Susan.
No problem.
All right, so we got about 15 minutes left here. What is there any other questions, things, thoughts?
Well, do you have any marketing tips for me since I'm able to pick your brain right now while I have you?
Yeah. So one of the I mean, obviously, live events are kind of a thing that isn't really a thing at the moment, sadly.
Yeah.
But once they are, I would, look at setting up a booth at some local events, local conferences or local conventions. I don't know, whatever they call them, right? Meetings. Look at setting up a booth and recording there, getting some, stories from a bunch of different women. You bring them in, like, if your normal episodes are like 30 to 45 minutes, do something like get, 3 or 4 women that you meet from the conference, bring them into the booth. And get them to record with you, and then all of a sudden, like, you have like 4 people on an episode, right? Or you could, if you really wanted to push it, go longer. It just depends on how long the event is, right? If the event's only like 2, 3, 4 hours,
I see.
You might want to combine. Some of these and do,
yeah,
like,
that's a good idea.
Interviews, yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's what I've done in the past.
Right.
Do more. I don't know how much you're doing with Facebook Live.
I do a bit with Facebook Live. Yeah.
Okay. Are you promoting your podcast through those?
Actually, I haven't done that very much. No.
Okay, good.
No.
Start doing that. So make sure you're mentioning it throughout the thing, or reference the newest episode that's coming up, something to that effect, or reference old episodes that you've already have done. Especially as you get further into it, you'll start to see like which episodes are like the most popular episodes, and then start to like look back and say like, hey, why is this one so much better? Is it the topic? Is it because the SEO on that post was better, or it resonated with more people? Are you? I assume you have an email list, right? I mean,
I have a good size one.
Are you emailing them every episode?
Yes, I do.
Out, or at least injecting it into like your normal newsletter kind of thing?
Yes, yeah. I send a newsletter out every week, and I drop the link to the episode in the newsletter. Yeah, and I tell everybody what the.
Are you getting any kind of click through on it?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I actually have a question about that, if I can ask you.
Yeah.
Am I better off sending them to my website or sending them to, in this case, Anchor?
I always err on the side of sending them to your website, right? Own the brand.
Okay.
Yeah, Anchor, I wouldn't send them to Anchor, because then they're on Anchor. It's kind of like sending someone to Facebook, right? You send them to your Facebook page, cool, but now they see they have 10 notifications, and they're like, ooh, what's over there? And the next thing you know, maybe they don't come back to you, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like, Ross is saying website.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay, I have been sending them to my website, so okay, good. I just wanted to double check my thinking on that. Okay.
So let's see, what else could you do? Getting on. Have you done any guesting on other people's podcasts? Yes,
I have, and I actually would like to do that more, because I am a coach, and I have I've spoken at several summits too on women's wellness issues, and so I really I'm trying to establish sort of like my expertise and my brand out there about that. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well that's great. What about Facebook Lives, like inside of other communities?
I have not done that. No, I would love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so find some Facebook groups, reach out to the admins, and see if you can do a Facebook Live, whether it's from a Facebook Live of yourself or into the group that's sanctioned. Ask please
Yes.
as a Facebook community owner,
Right. Yeah.
please
Just don't
ask.
barge in there and say, hey,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. So between that and uh do it being on there, like if they do like a weekly show or weekly spot where they're doing a Facebook Live, like kind of like what we're doing right now, and doing an interview, getting on those interviews that aren't maybe podcast specific but are
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Facebook
would,
Lives.
I would do it more on, like I said, on the, my story that I usually tell when I'm on a podcast, which is more about, well, anyway, it's about yoga and depression and wellness
Mhm.
versus podcasting.
I'm
So,
going
yeah.
to help with the game.
Right. Well, I didn't mean podcasting, but I meant like being on a podcast versus a Facebook Live. Like they might not turn their Facebook Live into a podcast like we're
Oh, I
doing
see. I
here.
see. Yeah. 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 Okay.
Yeah. Not
Okay. Yeah.
specifically to
Mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm.
But yeah. So, uh, 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 um, doing the emails. Um,
What about
you could
instant?
use Headliner.app. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of it.
So what it does is it lets you turn podcasting your podcast into like video, like bite-sized videos, so that you can share them.
So you can share them like on social media? What do you mean?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So let me see here. So I'll share my screen. So it allows you to share like a clip of your podcast in a video format, right onto. Oh, there's Andy right there, one of our icons in our community.
Huh.
So like, I
Oh,
mean, you
I've
can't hear
seen
it at the moment,
those.
but
Okay.
yeah. So and it starts out as free. I don't know how many you get for free. You get 5 videos per month for
Okay.
free, unlimited water. They're watermarked, but starting at $7.99, you can do 10 per month, unlimited, no water, or you can put a custom watermark on it. So it's it's one of those things that like it can just be another way to spice up your Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, and
Excellent.
all that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to give people like a peer into it. Now, I mean, how effective is it? I mean, it's video, and people like video, so
Mm.
I think that it definitely helps. And if you're in, it helps you maybe. Now, the only other thing is it's going to take time. It's going to take time, right? Because you have to like figure out what part of the episode is going to be the thing that makes sense to share.
Right.
So what I would say is while you're recording that episode, you take your little handy dandy notebook and pen and say, "Ooh, that sounded really good. Let
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
me write that timestamp
Okay.
down," and then star it so that like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna go back to this time, and just be mindful that like it's gonna change when you edit the things in front of it. The earlier
Oh
time,
God. Yeah. Right.
the earlier time. But at least if you can go there first and say, okay, or as you're going backwards, you're like, all right, I'm going to clip this out and save this as an MP3 file, and then go to Headliner, upload it with a picture, and
Hmm.
get yourself, nice way of sharing out the audio.
That's excellent. You're so smart. No wonder they call
Oh,
you
thank
Super
you.
Joe. Wow.
Thank you. But so it's just, I mean, that's like a next step kind of thing. But it's one of those things that you could do when you stop editing your show for 3 hours.
Yes.
Because
You're
like, oh,
right.
I can take an extra 5-10 minutes and clip out that specific audio, export it, and then upload it to Headliner and all that. And
Right.
there are other ways of doing it, like repurpose.io, which is what I use to get this show from Facebook to YouTube, and then I use icon Hanimura's other plugin to get it from YouTube to my website. But so that they actually has something similar where once you have it on there, like you can actually chop it up into 5 separate clips right from the website, so you don't even have to like upload like the MP3 and all that. So yeah, headliner, repurpose. Repurpose is great when you get like to that next step of like the amount of stuff that you're trying to, do when you're trying to optimize your optimized time.
Okay.
But it's not. I mean, it's not free, but it's just cheap as $15 a month.
Okay.
And Hani's a great guy, good friend of mine, and it's just like awesome products for podcasters. So happy to, no, I do have an affiliate link, but well, I'm not worried about it. He's just a great guy.
Right.
So anyway, a few minutes left. Any other questions that come to mind before we wrap up here?
Wow, I don't know. I have so much information here. What about I did a podcast several weeks ago with Lee. Oh, I can't remember how to pronounce her last name. Doesn't matter.
Wahara.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
She's
And
as well.
and she, I mean, I tell you, when I first started interviewing her, I was like a little intimidated, and she was, yeah, I was, because, well, first of all, she strikes me as like somebody who really has her shit together. Okay, and I'm like such a newbie, right? And anyway, so, and she was like very serious when we went into the podcast, and she was like, okay, we're going to do this start, and like 1, 2, 3, and she snaps her fingers. And I'm like, oh shit. I don't start my podcast that way. I just like start talking. No, you ready? You ready? Okay, let's go. Anyhow, so, so I was a little intimidated, but we ended up having a really great conversation. And after it was all over, we started to chat, and we got to know each other a little bit better. And she was like, Susan, how long have you been doing podcasts? I was like, a month. And she's like, a month. And we ended up talking and realized that we had both been to Podfest this year in January.
Okay. Yeah, I was there as well.
Oh, okay. But we, of course, didn't meet up with each other, didn't know each other. And, but anyhow, that somehow made some kind of a break in the ice. And we just, the conversation started to flow a little bit more freely. And so she recommended that I contact this group called OSSA, OSSA.
Okay. Not
and it's a OSSA Foundation or something like that. And she said, request to become a member and tell them I suggested that. And I said, okay. So I did. And of course, it's for women podcasters, but you have to be at a certain level in your podcasting career, so to speak, to become a member. And I'm like, no way qualifying in that. But because I knew Lee and mentioned her, I got in. I was like, whoa. And I told her, I was like, Lee, I got in. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the OSSA Collective.
Yeah, ASA Collective. Okay, I thought Foundation, but anyway, yeah. So I'm in that now. Not that I really am active in it. I'm still learning about it, but that may be something that is of benefit to other women podcasters who are part of your group.
Yeah. I am not familiar with it. I had not heard of it before, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pronounced ASA.
It's pronounced ASA. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Huh.
Yeah. So you can thank Lee for that.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Very cool. So,
yeah.
what was I gonna say? Bross asked, do you record your video or just your audio?
I record on Zoom, which probably you're going to go, oh shit, I can't believe she does that. But anyway, I record on Zoom.
A lot of people record on Zoom.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't, but that's
yeah.
me.
Well, again, newbie here. So I record on Zoom, and then I just take the audio from it and put it into Hindenburg. I don't know. Eventually, I may someday put the whole shebang onto YouTube. I don't know. But right now, I'm not doing that.
It wouldn't hurt. I mean, do you have the video Are you taking the video recording as well?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so at some point you might want to do that, getting it up to YouTube. You can also, you can go out to Facebook Live on Zoom, like we're doing right now with StreamYard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I'm no Zoom expert because I've only I only use it when other people send me Zoom links, pretty much. But yeah, there's a way to do that, to go straight out to Facebook Live. So to me, it, it's one of those things where it's like, if the most important thing is not your download numbers, it's getting the reach and just
Yes.
getting people to see it. Like, then that's what's important, right? If the download
Right.
numbers don't really matter that much from I'm gonna make millions of dollars in sponsorship money, then you absolutely should look to throwing it up into Facebook. Maybe just in your Facebook community,
Yeah.
and then you can always delete it too, right? Like, you don't have to leave it up. Like, you could have it
Correct.
up, do the live, and then delete it so that people, have a reason to go and download it. If you really want to push everybody to the
Sure.
podcast,
And
which you might want
yeah.
to do that, but experiment. That's the best part about podcasting.
Well, and the thing too is you can also, download a Facebook Live video. I've done that before. I do Facebook Live videos from my Facebook group, and I save the videos on my PC. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, it's great that you're saving them.
Mhm.
And Ross said, just a thought, you could take a video clip of the most impactful 30 to 60 seconds of the podcast, share it across socials as a promo for your episode.
Mhm.
Video is another way to get attention, people. Yeah, we were talking about Headliner app, and using Repurpose as well to do similar type things, but without the actual video portion of it where you're sharing your faces
Right.
in it. So yeah, I would I think that's another great valuable thing. Like I said, just when you're doing it, just like, oh, that sounds really impactful. I could use that. Like, just
Yeah.
write down
Yeah.
just write down the numbers, and then bam, you go back and figure it out later.
That's a good
And
suggestion, Ross. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ross, for pointing out. I forgot to ask if she was doing that or if she had thought about moving or pushing it out to Facebook Live as well. So
I'll have to look into that. Yeah. That's
yeah.
a good suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to try to use the content you have as much as you possibly can. Kind of like how I'm jumping from Facebook to YouTube to the website as a post, as well as to the podcast RSS feed.
Yeah.
So just trying to get as much as you can out of it.
Right.
It really
Right.
helps.
Yeah. I think
But,
I'm going to look into that Facebook Live. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you if you can get it to go into your what's it called, into your Facebook group,
Yeah.
then you're definitely going to get a lot more traction out of there.
Yeah.
Than
I think
you
so.
would probably otherwise. So
Yeah.
Susan, any last questions or thoughts before we wrap
No,
up here?
I think I'm in brain overload at this point.
Woo! That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Susan.
Thank
I'm glad we were
you
able to
for
put you
having
in a
me.
brain overload, and I'm looking forward to big things from you in the future. And real quick, Ross says, glad that helps. I'm a big believer that podcasters should consider using the video in promotion at times, even if you only post the full recording as an audio podcast.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I mean,
Thank you.
especially if your goal is not single place, big numbers, get sponsors. If your goal is to just be heard and get in front of people, then you do it as much as you possibly can everywhere you possibly can do it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more there, Ross. Thank you so much for joining us, Ross and Jim and Facebook user. I'm not sure which Facebook user that is. It might be the person I have a meeting with next. So that I'm now running late for, but I haven't gotten a link for that. So if Facebook user's still watching, and it's Chris, please shoot me a message with a link for our meeting that started 10 minutes ago. Anyway, this episode of the Indie Pod Show is brought to you by Indie Pod University. Learn to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast with me and the rest of the Icon University community over at indiepodu.com. My mind was drifting a little bit there. It happens. So tomorrow is our free live virtual podcast conference. Ross Brand is one of our speakers. So thank you again, Ross, for being here. Thank you for being one of our speakers. We're talking about home recording setups and how to take it to the next level. Looking forward to that. Everyone, I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Don't forget, tomorrow is Social Saturday, where you can share one of your social media links, as well as Shine on Sunday is happening this Sunday. And it will be a glorious Sunday, as the Eagles will not be playing and have already won their game this week. It's a garbage year for all teams involved in the Northeast. But it is what it is, and I'm enjoying every moment of it anyway, because 2020 is, it's not all that great. Take care, everybody. Have a great night, great weekend, and I will see you all on Sunday.